Why are pensions fully funded instead of schools, and do you support that move?
Why are pensions fully funded instead of schools? So I support Governor Murphy's initiatives, and a lot of thought went into deciding how to allocate the budget. And with the SFRA as amended by S2, with the 7-year phase-in, I believe that's in alignment with what we're doing in the Department of Education.
Okay, so I mean, fully funding schools is a constitutional requirement after all, so that's why I'm concerned about the fully funding part of this budget, or not being fully funded. Let's go back to the basics. How much would it cost to fully fund the formula right now, if you have those numbers available? And how much would it cost to return funding to districts that were cut under S2?
So I'm going to ask Kevin if he has those funds, those numbers. If he doesn't, we will get back to you.
Sure.
So I want to caution first some of these numbers because we do not know. We rerun the formula each year based on current enrollment and other factors that are inputs. Using current year data, it's approximately $530 million more to go all the way to full funding. But that would also accelerate the cuts to those districts that are overfunded right now according to the formula.
Okay, thank you. The proposed budget increases spending overall by $2.4 billion from this year's budget. That would mean we could fully fund the formula and give back aid to cut districts, not once, but twice. There is plenty of money, that's clear. Priorities are typically prioritized, which means first in line. But schools and students aren't being prioritized that I see in this budget. And what is a budget if it isn't a reflection of priorities? If school funding were a priority, schools would be fully funded. We wouldn't be cutting any districts, and there would be an emphasis on doing all of that to reverse the learning loss and address mental health. None of that is happening. And I want to point out that 193 school districts in the state were cut this year to the tune of something around $200 million. So it is significant, and it is not just limited to a few districts. I represent 4 school districts that are high poverty and high need, but are facing funding cuts. Maintenance of equity requirement, but they are being cut by $2 million. There are 75 other districts that require funding, but only $17 million is appropriated in this budget, despite a $170 million need. How does cutting funding to districts provide a thorough, especially, this keeps going on, for high need and high poverty districts? And I want to just point out, one of the towns are high poverty, and the other one is high need. The other 3 are high need. Keensburg, Highlands, Union Beach, and Keyport are the towns, if that helps.
So yes, as it relates to high poverty and high need school districts, we know that the maintenance of equity relief by the federal government is an opportunity to exercise that. And we continue our conversations with the federal government to fully understand how to best implement the maintenance of equity. And as it relates to the SFRA, with the, as amended with S2, that 7-year phase-in is what I continue to go back to because that's my guidepost. And so I'm unable to deviate from that.
It's just a dire situation when you know these schools, and every one of the schools in my district, that's 16, saw some kind of cut, but these 4 are the most egregious and most in need. Why is the state cutting funding to school districts that already don't have adequate funding and that the federal government has determined are high need or high poverty? You know, I mean, looking just from our states, isn't matching up here between what is being said and what is actually happening.
So with that, I go back to the formula that was agreed upon with the legislature and the governor. And so now in year 5 of year 7, I think looking back at that to assess if it's the right way to continue. But as of today, it is my guidepost, and with the maintenance of equity conversation, that I'm hoping we can come to some resolution in the near future that will provide more information that can hopefully help in this area.
Okay, just so I'm clear, implementing the maintenance of equity is simply providing the funding instead of cutting it. Is that correct?
The maintenance of equity, as I understand it, is in relation to the identification of high-need and high-poverty school districts with the possibility of additional funding, but it's not a broad span to every district that was cut. I understand that there are particular parameters that are followed and a formula that dictates the specific school districts.
Okay. And you know, a lot of these questions are being driven by the governor stating that schools being fully funded when in reality we have these sort of cuts to districts that are really struggling as it is.